Part 49. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 482. With Tianyun Hall as the center, thousands of golden bamboo scrolls went in all directions. Like a shooting star passing by, wherever the golden bamboo scroll passes, there is a holy golden stream of light. Like a fluttering butterfly, it flew towards all parts of Lanchuan continent. Some submerged into the towering mountains, and some slid down the deep lake. Some entered the freezing cold places, and some flew into the fiery canyons. Lanchuan continent is dotted with countless sects, large and small. But there are only a few thousand people who are eligible to receive the golden bamboo scrolls. The traces of the golden stream of light spread across the sky. What's more important is that wherever the golden bamboo scroll passes, it causes various strange phenomena. The vegetation is growing and full of vitality, and even the animals and birds in the forest are looking towards the sky, seemingly attracted by this strange sight. The air is filled with the faint fragrance of ink bamboo. The abundant spiritual energy turned into spiritual rain and fell from the sky. The spiritual energy contained in it was extremely pure, moistening everything in the world. The seven-color rainbow streaks across the sky, beautiful and holy. This is a golden bamboo scroll. The golden bamboo scrolls flying to all over Lanchuan continent. What kind of force could actually have such a grand deed? Countless monks also looked up at the sky at this time. They were already in disbelief, but after carefully observing the surrounding scene, they clearly showed even more disbelief and astonishment. Spiritual rain falls, moistening the world. Able to bring about such a visionary scene that benefits all things, these golden bamboo scrolls are probably the wedding invitations of powerful people in the imperial realm. No, just an emperor realm expert might cause such a sacred scene. If it is really a big wedding, this time, it may even be a big wedding between two emperor realm powerhouses. There are only so many powerful emperors in the world. How could there be a pair of Taoist couples who are both powerful emperors? No, maybe, there really is. Coincidentally, two figures appeared in the minds of the monks at the same time, as if they were a match made in heaven. The meteor shower of golden threads and bamboo scrolls began to slowly fall into the various sects. This breath is indeed a golden bamboo scroll. Even the head of a sect who usually held a respected position could not remain calm at this moment. They respectfully greeted each other out of the sect and received the golden bamboo scrolls falling from the sky. Liuguang Temple. 3 days later, the Empress wedding. Even though he was in the midst of an extremely important retreat and enlightenment, Master Fenwen still broke through the barrier immediately and took the golden bamboo scroll when he sensed the aura. Looking at the invitation written on the bamboo scroll, even though he was a determined monk, he couldn't help but feel shocked in his heart. Even the hand holding the beads trembled slightly in disbelief. That Empress actually had an affair with Nai Chen. Unexpected, unexpected. Chance and cause are unpredictable. Monks should not be tainted by the world, but... Don't worry, you two. The poor monk will definitely go to Tianyun Hall to offer blessings. Mount Imei. It contains a brand new version of the latest quotations from the empresses on the uselessness of Taoist companions. Ah, the smell of this book seems to be sweet. She secretly took out the brand new the latest bound edition of Taoist companions on uselessness from under the pillow. As the head of a dignified sect, Yu Ziren was full of happiness and satisfaction at this moment. Don't worry, Empress, no matter what, I will definitely follow the Empress and stick to the idea in the theory of the uselessness of Taoist couples. I will never marry for the rest of my life. I am only willing to devote myself to the Empress. Seeing no one around, she quietly opened the book and buried her cheek in it, sucking on the book with yearning and even a hint of greed and obsession. It was as if the words on it had the fragrance of the Empress. At this moment, the golden bamboo scroll slipped down, immediately attracting Yu Ziren's attention. She quickly ran out of the house and caught the golden bamboo scroll that fell from the sky. has the aura of the Empress on it. Could it be that the Empress finally had a clear enlightenment, gave up on the hateful Nai Chen, and decided to live in Mount Ime? Just after sniffing it, Yu Ziyang's eyes suddenly lit up with excitement, and she opened the bamboo scroll with great excitement. Wedding, invitation. But when she saw the content clearly, Yu Ziyang was stunned. The whole person seemed to be frozen in place. Sect Master, are we still going to attend the Tianyun Palace wedding? After a long time, Xu Xiangdi rushed forward in a panic and asked softly. Go. Tears seemed to flash in his eyes, and after a moment, Yu Ziyang still spoke. She raised her head silently and looked at the sky. Her voice was a little low, but also with unprecedented seriousness. This is the Empress's decision. No matter what, I will offer my most sincere blessings to the Empress. We will always follow in the footsteps of the Empress. Disciple understands. Xu Xiangdi responded softly. But following her master's gaze towards the sky, she inadvertently saw a trace of sadness quietly flowing in her expression. Perhaps as Master said, some people and figures are destined to pass by and will never be touched again. After a long silence, she wiped away a trace of tears that fell from the corner of her eyes, and then she murmured softly. Hades. Princess, Princess, are you okay? It's okay, it's okay. I'm just easily distracted recently and have a little difficulty concentrating. Hearing the call in her ear, Yu Qian shook her head and straightened the crown on her head. After experiencing 2 consecutive wars, the underworld is now under construction and everything is revived. Although many buildings are in ruins, they have gradually become prosperous under the joint efforts of the ghost soldiers and ghosts. Without the threat of the 8 goddesses, the underworld has become much safer and more peaceful. But even so, every time she looked around, Yu Qian always felt empty in her heart, as if something was missing. But what is missing? Even she herself didn't know about this. After all, the underworld is gradually returning to the underworld in her cognition, and the situation is obviously getting better and better. There should be nothing missing. Crack, crack. At this moment, a shattering sound suddenly sounded above the sky of the underworld. What is that? Countless eyes suddenly gathered to the sky, and clearly saw the spider web-like cracks spreading in the space. And in this crack, the golden light was bright and dazzling. A bamboo scroll shattered the space, flew into the underworld, and slowly fell from the sky. That's it? An invitation. Yukin's originally dim eyes suddenly shone, and even the crown on her head glowed with joy. At this moment, Yukin suddenly remembered the reason why she had been feeling empty in her heart recently. It turned out that she flew into the air, gently took the golden bamboo scroll, and happily hugged it in her arms. I didn't expect that this day would really come. Don't worry, I will definitely go to the wedding to witness it with my own eyes. At this moment, a satisfied smile finally appeared on the corner of Yukin's mouth. It was as if she recalled the petite figure who always came to her side and called her princess sister affectionately. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 483. The golden bamboo scrolls have all fallen into the 4 corners of the world of Lanchuan continent, in major sects, and holy places of caves and heavens. But the golden tracks left in the sky still exude a strange and brilliant color. After a long silence, the cultivators in the world finally fell into a boiling excitement when they looked up. Thousands of golden bamboo scrolls and thousands of invitations to major sects. They knew very well what this meant. It even caused a strange phenomenon in the world. Such a magnificent scene is even enough to be called the best in Lanchuan continent in thousands of years. I didn't expect that after so many years, there would be a Taoist couple who were both great emperors to hold a grand wedding. More importantly, the one holding the grand wedding this time was not someone else, but the Queen King Yu. Any great emperor might not be able to cause such an uproar, but only the Queen Qingyu was different. It seems that not much time has passed since the Empress returned from the Imperial Mausoleum and announced that she has established a romantic relationship with Nai Chen. How could it be so fast? Damn Nai Chen! Of course, the disciples of Tianyun Hall were the ones who suffered the most. They just woke up from a sleep, and they never expected that things would happen so suddenly. Looking up at the sky pitifully, they not only did not wait for any turnaround, but only saw it clearly. After the wedding invitations were sent to all corners of the world, the Empress turned her eyes away immediately. There was shyness in her eyes, but she looked at Nai Chen with a hint of tenderness. "Let's go, this emperor wants to take you to a place." She gently hooked her finger. Nai Chen was slightly puzzled. "The wedding will be held tomorrow. Shouldn't we prepare for the wedding as soon as possible in the remaining day? Where do you want to go, my wife?" "I will prepare those things soon. Before that, we must do more important things." "More important things?" Nai Chen thought for a moment, but couldn't think of anything. "Stupid, didn't you say that you wanted me to appear in the most beautiful posture at the wedding?" Chu Qingyu's eyes were filled with a trace of resentment. "Wife, are you trying to prepare?" "Ahem, I understand." Nai Chen smiled knowingly. Without any hesitation, he took a step forward and came to Chu Qingyu's side. In front of all the disciples of Tianyun Hall and even the supreme elders. This time, he didn't hesitate at all and directly took the delicate jade hand. The skin gently touched Nai Chen's. In such a public environment, Chu Qingyu was obviously slightly startled, and her hand couldn't help but curl up slightly. But soon, a serene smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Not only did she reach out to Nai Chen again, her 10 fingers joined together, the two people's hands seemed to be closer than before, and even their shoulders slowly pressed together. Her feet stepped on the void, as if floating across the lake, step by step towards the distant sky. Only 2 backs were left, leaning on each other gently, looking intimate. Empress. For a moment, looking at these 2 backs from afar, everyone in Tianyun Hall was stunned and stood there. It was so sweet that I felt a little flustered. But for some reason, when they saw the Empress take the initiative to reach out her hand and interlock her 10 fingers with Nai Chen, many disciples suddenly felt as if they were relieved in an instant. They followed the Empress, respected the Empress, and also had an unattainable admiration. But they knew better, perhaps for everyone in Tianyun Hall. Envy, jealousy, and hatred are envy, jealousy and hatred. But what they really hope for is the happiness of the Empress. Damn senior brother Nai, he is capable. In this case, I will bless this love, after all, that is the Empress. Forget it, senior brother Nai is a genius who has reached the Emperor realm in a few years, so it is not unacceptable. However, I advise him not to think of bullying the Empress or disappointing her. Otherwise, even if my strength is low, I must fight for the Empress. But now, let's temporarily bless senior brother Nai. The disciples of Tianyun Hall raised their heads at the same time and looked at the backs of the 2 people going away. Many disciples couldn't help but smile at the same time. It is obvious that the Empress is usually aloof and arrogant, far beyond their reach. But at this moment, everyone wants to protect the Empress from the bottom of their hearts. What are you all standing there for? The wedding will be held in Tianyun Palace tomorrow. All the top sects in Lanchuan continent will come to attend the wedding of the Empress. Do you want to lose face for Tianyun Palace? At this moment, Elder Wang looked at the disciples and suddenly spoke. Yes, everyone, hurry up. There is only 1 day left, and Tianyun Palace must be decorated as quickly as possible. Tomorrow's Tianyun Palace must be enough to attract the attention of all the sects in the world. There is only 1 day left, it feels very challenging. It must be completed even if it is challenging. For Tianyun Palace and for the Empress, we must do it this time. That's right, the Empress and senior brother Nai have paid so much for Tianyun Palace. This time, it's time for us to repay. Humph, senior brother Nai, you must date the Empress well and don't let us down. That's right, I used to be most afraid of senior brother Nai showing off his love. But if senior brother Nai doesn't spread enough dog food during this wedding, even if I can't beat him, I will have to fight with him. Brothers, follow me. Today we will decorate the Tianyun Palace in a way that will attract the world's attention. The first one to stand up was Duan Wang, who had been beaten frequently by Nai Chen. Haha, senior brother Duan Muo, weren't you forced to call senior brother Nai ancestor last time? If you take such initiative, could it be that you don't hold grudges anymore? Duan Mu Yang gritted his teeth. Remember, of course. Look at my villain face with a sharp mouth and monkey cheeks, do I look like someone who doesn't hold grudges? But this time, as long as senior brother Nai can hold a unique wedding celebration for the Empress will always be happy. Not to mention being an ancestor once, I can call Duan Mu Yang 10 times or 100 times. The men of the Duan Mu family can be beaten and coerced, but they must be real men and must not be cowards. I still want to identify this ancestor. Ha ha ha, I have always felt that senior brother Duan Mu is a villain. But I didn't expect that this time, he would actually have the demeanor of the ancestor of the Duan Mu family. Of course. Do you think my two ancestors recognized each other in vain? I won't tell you anymore, I'm still in a hurry to get to work. Haha, so do we. There was only one day left, and there was no time to waste. We have to work hard, and I hope that senior brother Nai will also work hard. Run it for me. On the top of Tianyun Palace, hearty laughter echoed one after another. The hostility and discord in the past seemed to have disappeared at this moment. Because all the disciples seemed to have a common goal at this moment, the Empress gets married. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 484. Yuja Cave Heaven. In ancient times, the ancestor of the divine phoenix had built this cave heaven with his own strength to provide shelter for the phoenix clan in later generations. As time passed, the strength of the phoenix clan declined and its ruling power was no longer as strong as before. Later, the phoenix clan, no longer willing to contact the outside world, retreated to the Yuja Cave Heaven. Unless necessary, they would rarely leave this place. But today, when looking up, many Yufeng suddenly found that there was a distortion in the sky. In the distorted space, a golden bamboo slip flew out and fell into the Yuja. It can actually break through the defense of the cave heaven. What is this thing? Many Yufengs were panicked and even hurriedly wanted to stop the falling golden bamboo slip. But at this moment, accompanied by a melodious cry like a flute, a colorful and gorgeous shadow bathed in flames soared from the depths of the Yuja. The flame burned hotly, slowly wrapped the golden bamboo scroll in it, and floated in the air. Suddenly, with the burning of the blazing fire, the air became extremely hot. After the ancient times, the blood power of the Phoenix clan was not as pure as before. The feathers of many Phoenix descendants are mostly white, and other colors rarely appear. Because of this, the descendants of these phoenixes are often called feather phoenixes. But only the phoenix bathed in the fire is different. Proudly raised its head, the colorful wings spread out, and every time it flapped, it would cause a wave of heat to spread around. Majestic and awe-inspiring, with a bit of sacredness that seemed to come from eternity. For a while, the feather phoenixes who were surprised just now all quieted down and stayed nearby. Because the only divine phoenix that inherited the purest phoenix bloodline is the new master of the feather realm today, Yulan. The flames gradually spread, and surrounded Yulan like a whirlwind. In this hurricane, her phoenix-like posture with colorful feathers gradually transformed into a human appearance. However, at the age of more than 400 years old, the human appearance that Yulan transformed into was still a girl of 15 or 16 years old. But the red color engraved between the eyebrows, like the pattern of phoenix feathers, was somewhat sacred. Golden bamboo scroll. Is this the invitation of the Empress? Opening the bamboo scroll in her hand, she was obviously slightly surprised. Does the Phoenix Lord know the source of this bamboo slip? Several feather phoenixes hurriedly came forward and asked in confusion. After all, the contact between the feather realm cave heaven and the outside world has always been rare, and Yulan seems to have rarely left. Well, I did meet her by chance. And I have to admit that the feeling of the human empress is very special, even I can feel a little admiration. It's just. Yulan nodded slightly and continued to look at the contents of the bamboo scroll. This golden bamboo scroll flying to the feather realm seems to be slightly different from the others. In addition to being able to break through the space and enter the feather realm. Just below the invitation, she saw a string of words left by Chu Qingyu herself. Before the wedding, I will come to visit Yuja Tongtian. Empress Qingyu actually wants to come to Yuja. Yulan felt a little surprised. For so many years, since Yuja had no intention of communicating with human cultivators, very few people would go to Yuja. But there is only one. Although Yuja has little contact with the outside world, most of the time it is unwilling to welcome outsiders. But so far, it has never abolished the traditions left by its ancestors. That is, rainbow feather clothes. There was a rumor in the world that sounded like a fairy tale. It is said that if true love can pass the test of Yuja Dongtian, a feather will fall from the body of each phoenix, forming a unique piece of clothing in the world. That piece of clothing was named rainbow feather clothes. A woman who can wear rainbow feather clothes also means that she has a true love that is recognized by the heavens. Many people don't know that this rumor is not false. But as time passed, not only did the human race gradually forget this rumor, but even the Phoenix clan gradually forgot it. According to the words left by the ancestors, it seems that there were indeed lovers in ancient times who could truly pass the test of the feather realm and obtain the colorful feather clothes transformed from the phoenix feathers. But so far, no phoenix has seen it with their own eyes. Since she was born, Yulan has seen many people who tried to come to the feather realm to find the colorful feather clothes after hearing the rumors. But there is no doubt that the love between those humans is not worth mentioning under the test of the feather realm. Not to mention getting the colorful feather clothes, even Anxia's fragile feelings have been easily broken in the test. She and other phoenixes in the feather realm have even begun to doubt that the colorful feather clothes may not be taken away at all. Or perhaps, the feelings between humans are just superficial, and in fact they are not vulnerable at all. But she didn't expect that the human Qingyu Queen was also preparing to come to the feather realm. By chance, Yulan once left Yuja Cave Heaven and went to Lanchuan continent. Just by looking at the respected Qingyu Empress from a distance, she felt a sense of loneliness and arrogance from the human emperor that she had never experienced before. It was just a one-time acquaintance, but she, who had always been reluctant to contact humans, had a deep impression of this empress and a special admiration for her. But even so, Phoenix Lord, do you think this Qingyu Queen can really get the rainbow feather robe? A snow-white feather phoenix asked curiously, noticing that Yulan seemed to have a different feeling for Chu Qingyu. I don't think so. Yulan shook her head quickly. So many human cultivators have come, but all of them failed without exception. For so long, we have all witnessed it with our own eyes, haven't we? Indeed, perhaps there is no true love between hypocritical species such as humans. Or perhaps, the rainbow feather robe is just a beautiful and illusory rumor. Countless white feather phoenixes slowly soared around Yulan. As the home of the Phoenix clan, the feather realm cave heaven seems to be always as peaceful and tranquil as this. All phoenixes have heard of that beautiful rumor since they were young, and have imagined that their feathers will gather together at some point and turn into a perfect rainbow feather robe. But as they grow up and time passes, they have long forgotten this innocent and illusory fairy tale. Crack. However, suddenly, a strong light suddenly burst out from the sky above the feather realm, and two extremely powerful pressures drifted out from the space in a corner of the sky. The two figures were actually two great emperors of the human race. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 485. Empress King Yu, she is really here. Even Yulan also showed a hint of surprise, and the feather-like lines between his eyebrows were slightly emitting a trace of red light. Protect the Phoenix Master. Yuja Cave Heaven has not had any outsiders for too long, let alone two powerful men in the realm of the great emperor. Many Yufeng suddenly became vigilant and hurriedly gathered towards Yulan, guarding her like a white barrier. It's okay, don't worry. Yulan quickly shook his head. The Yufeng tribe members were obviously not daring to let down their guard easily. Phoenix Master, are you sure they really only come here for the colorful clothes? I'm sure, it's just whether they have the ability to take away Nishang depends on themselves. Yulan looked at the two figures appearing in the space. She had seen the powerful human emperor before, but this was the first time she felt such mighty power. More importantly, even if only two shadows can be vaguely seen in the light. Looking at the two figures sticking together almost all the time, Yulan seemed to see a feeling that he had never felt in other human couples. Phoenix Lord of the Yuja Cave Heaven, today I came with my Taoist companion Nai Chen for the colorful Yi. Could you please help me guide the direction of Yi? The light gradually faded, and Chu Qingyu's voice slowly drifted into the Yu realm. This voice was obviously mixed with a hint of Lingran imperial power, and a coldness that made people feel inviolable. But not only did he not feel arrogant or contemptuous at all. On the contrary, it made the phoenix in the feather realm feel very melodious, and even couldn't help but feel close to this majestic human empress. Providing colorful and feathered clothes to the lovers of true love in the world is a long-standing mission of our phoenix family, and I will guide the direction for the empress. It's just that since the records were recorded, no Taoist monk from the human race has been qualified to obtain the colorful feathers for thousands of years. Whether we can take away our feathers depends on the empress's own strength. The lines between Yu Ian's eyebrows were filled with a strange red color, and a pair of colorful holy wings spread out behind him. Following the guidance in her bloodline, she stretched out her finger and pointed to the depths of the Yuja cave. That's where the trial for getting the colorful feather clothes is. Thank you so much, little Phoenix Master. Clearly hearing that it would be difficult to obtain colorful clothes and feathers, Chu Qingyu only smiled lightly, as if she did not take the difficulties described by Yulan into consideration at all. He even held Nai Chen's hand very confidently and looked into the depths of Yuja. Let's go. Let's go, wife, I want to see if this colorful feather coat is as beautiful as the legend says. Nai Chen also smiled slightly, looking calm and relaxed. The two of them stepped on the void, leaning on their shoulders gently. Although they did not make any other moves, their invisible actions exuded a different kind of sweetness. What a strange human emperor. The Phoenix people in the Yu realm couldn't help but feel a little surprised by what they saw. In their impression, most of the powerful emperors of the human race regarded themselves as arrogant and had extremely high arrogance. But the Taoist couple, who were both strong in the emperor realm, didn't look like respected emperors at all. Instead, they seemed like a sweet couple immersed in a beautiful first love. More importantly, they are actually so confident. Have you never heard of the rumors about Nishang? The colorful feather garment that can be made by gathering all the phoenix feathers in our feather world can be regarded as the best wedding dress in the world, but it is definitely not easy to obtain. It is absolutely impossible for false love to pass the test. Even if there is only a small crack in the relationship, it will never be able to impress the remaining souls left by the ancestors. No one has been able to obtain Nishangyi for tens of thousands of years. Even we don't know whether Nishangyi really exists. These two human race emperors actually. Many Yufeng obviously couldn't understand the calmness and gentleness displayed by Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu. Phoenix Master, do you think these two people can really get the colorful feather clothes? They could only look at Yu Lan. Staring at the backs of the two of them, Yu Ian's gaze paused for a moment. But after a while, he still shook his head firmly. Empress Qingyu and the new powerful emperor named Nai Chen are indeed special, but even so, I don't think they can succeed. After all, the word love seems simple, but the complexity and mystery within it are completely incomprehensible even to Yu Lan himself. Love has nothing to do with realm cultivation. Rather, people with stronger cultivation sometimes cannot let go of each other's arrogance, and can only have the opposite effect. Even a pair of ordinary Taoist couples who went to Yuja Cave and Heaven couldn't pass the test, let alone two powerful emperors. Even though he had an inexplicable affection for Empress Qingyu, Yu Lan did not think that these two people could break the test that no one had broken through for many years. Wait a minute, the remnant soul of the ancestor appears. At this moment, a bright and holy light suddenly appeared in the distant sky. A ray of golden blood gushes out from the depths of the feather realm and turns into a phantom of a phoenix in mid-air. The wings were spread out, and the phoenix's shadow was covered with golden brilliance. It spreads its wings and cries, which is as melodious as the sound of a flute, but it also has the majestic spirit of being reborn from the ashes. The majestic body covered with golden feathers was burning with flames, and the pair of phoenix eyes seemed to have the majesty of looking down on the common people. This shadow was the residual soul left by the ancestor of the Phoenix clan who opened up the Fi'u cave heaven here. It has been waiting in the depths of the feather realm for tens of thousands of years, testing every couple. But in the past, couples who came to the feather realm to participate in the test often had to go to the location of the ancestor's residual soul. Why did the ancestor's residual soul appear on its own this time? Both Yu Lan and the tribesmen around her were obviously surprised. The ancestor's residual soul actually appeared on its own, and it was the first time they had seen it in so many years. What on earth could attract the ancestor's residual soul to come to the world on its own? Even Yu Lan, who had never changed her mind before, had a slightly changed expression at this moment. She felt very clearly that the situation this time seemed to be a little different from the past. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 486. The loud phoenix cry echoed throughout the feather world, and the blazing flames swept in all directions, as if igniting half of the sky. Feeling the blood power emanating from the ancestors, all the feather phoenixes could not help but feel the tremors from their blood. The test has begun. A ray of light suddenly burst out from the golden phoenix's feathers like a spring, enveloping Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu. The space around the two of them changed instantly. A mysterious breath lingered and swirled, and even the tiny particles in the air slowly floated upwards as if they had lost gravity. The ancient avenue of the great truth seemed to penetrate time and understand all kinds of thoughts. At the same time, the vague connection seemed to involve Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu, creating a very wonderful connection between the two. Yu Lan raised her head and looked at the scene in front of her seriously. She knew very well that this was the first step of the test. The insight of the ancestors will be able to easily tear apart all disguises and present the marriage line of the two in the most real form. There have been many couples who came to the Yuja cave heaven to find the legendary colorful feather clothes. Many of them are very confident that they can pass the test. But before the test even began, the simple emergence of the marriage line between the two easily tore the fragile feelings into pieces. Some couples' marriage lines seem to be involved, but in fact they have long been separated from each other and quietly split to both sides. Some couples' marriage lines are only barely maintained by the last trace of undetectable silk thread. Some couples even have no marriage line connecting them to each other at all. It's like a lie, fragile and ridiculous. It seems that you can disguise yourself and seem to be able to barely deceive your heart. But under the inside of the ancestors, there is no way to hide. Having seen so many, even Yulan had already felt accustomed to it, but that is, the marriage line, how is it possible? Ding-ling-ling. Accompanied by the sound of a bell gently shaking, many Yufeng suddenly exclaimed in surprise. Enshrouded in the light, they clearly saw the marriage line between Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu. What a strange silk thread it was. The red color was like the sunset, pure without a single flaw. The red silk thread floated in the air, one end connected to Nai Chen and the other end connected to Chu Qingyu's body. There was no bend or deviation, and no weak spots. Although it was a silk thread, it was as solid as iron and stone. The marriage line connected each other, blooming with a bright red color. Waves of breath spread out like waves, and even seeing the marriage line with one's own eyes could make people feel how tough it was. It was as if, even after thousands of years, even if the seas dried up and the rocks crumbled, and time passed like water, there would be no change at all. Is this really a marriage line? Even Yulan showed a hint of surprise. She had seen many marriage lines between human lovers, but she had never seen a marriage line like this. She could not guess anything else, but there was only one thing she could be extremely sure of. Nai Chen, Chu Qingyu, the love between these two people is completely different from what she had seen before. Boom boom. At the same time, the golden phoenix shadow paused for a while, and seemed to show a hint of approval. But as its wings flapped, the oppressive feeling deep in the phoenix bloodline burst out at this moment. Mighty, like thunder. The phoenix, which can stand at the top of the spirit beasts together with the dragon clan, has enough blood power to make all living beings feel fear. Thunder roared, and dazzling lightning rolled down from the clouds. The lightning gathered and condensed into a total of 10 phoenix phantoms. Unlike ordinary feather phoenixes, these phantoms formed by the ancient bloodline exude the real majesty of the phoenix. The bloodline is simple and strong, bathed in thunder, and the thunder that shines on the world continues to burst out with a majestic power like a divine weapon descending to the world. There are actually 10 phantoms. The feather phoenixes present were obviously shocked by the scene in front of them. Although many of them have witnessed the test from their ancestors. But for so long, facing the couples who came, the ancestors have always just casually sent down a thunder phoenix phantom. Even if it is only a thunder phoenix phantom, it can easily turn the fragile marriage between those couples into ashes. Many couples who came here in vain to get the colorful feather clothes not only have no chance of getting their wishes, but even their marriage will be destroyed by this simple blow. Forget each other, like strangers. This time, the extra phoenix shadows were not just one or two. Rather, why did the ancestors do this? No matter how strong the marriage is, it is impossible to resist this terrible blow. 10 phoenix shadows of thunder surrounded the sky, and the rolling thunder accompanied them. Even the space was trembling in the terrifying thunder. This scene was so terrible that it seemed like the end of the world. Even the tribesmen in the Yuja cave heaven were a little scared. Although the marriage line between Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu made them feel a feeling they had never seen before. But facing the lightning flashing all over the sky, they still didn't believe that the thin marriage line could withstand the terrifying thunder that seemed to have the power to annihilate the world. Get out of the way. Although our ancestors used to only attack the marriage line, this level of power may affect even you. Even though they were facing two foreign humans, Yu Feng couldn't help but shout out loud. Seeing such a special marriage line for the first time, they had a different understanding of the love between human lovers. They didn't want Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu to be annihilated by the thunder. However, both the Yufeng people and Yulan, who had been watching everything, saw it clearly. Even though there were bursts of exclamations around them, Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu just held hands and accompanied each other, calmly hanging in the air, looking up at the sky. It was as if they didn't take the lightning flash all over the sky into consideration at all. Boom! The deafening sound echoed throughout the Yuja cave heaven, and the strong light almost blinded everyone's eyes temporarily. The residual waves spread to the surroundings, and the air waves alone made many Yufengs flying in the air feel unstable. It is even hard to imagine how terrible the thunder of the 10 phoenixes falling was. They opened their eyes wide in shock and tried their best to look at the center of the explosion, trying to confirm the safety of the two. The lightning finally began to slowly dissipate, and it was hard to see the scene clearly. Countless Yufengs were stunned on the spot as if they were petrified. Under the sky, the phoenix skirt fluttered, and the two people looked at the phoenix shadow bathed in golden fire without fear. And the marriage thread between Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu was, slowly floating, intact. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 487. Their marriage line is actually intact. Even Yulan was very sure that facing the thunder falling from the sky, even she would find it difficult to protect herself. And these two people did not use any spiritual power at all, relying only on the marriage line. They took on the thunder from 10 phoenix phantoms. Unbelievable, really unbelievable. Is this the reason why the ancestor did not hesitate and directly sent down 10 phoenixes of thunder? Yu Ian's eyes finally became completely serious. I never thought that anyone could get the colorful feathered clothes, but at this moment, her thoughts finally wavered a little. Maybe, it's really possible. Looking at Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu, a hint of expectation appeared in her eyes. Huh. At the same time, the huge and majestic golden phoenix body burned with blazing golden flames. The whistling wind blew in all directions, and the whirlpool-like hurricane caused the space to distort and tremble. The thunder roared louder and louder, and huge shadows appeared in the twisted space. In the burning fire, a red fire phoenix spread its wings and cried. Then, accompanied by the cold air, an ice phoenix with wings covered with icicles spread its wings. Not only that. The iron phoenix made of metal, the water phoenix condensed by water flow, the stone phoenix whose body is made of rock. These phoenixes have different forms and attributes, but each phoenix body exudes an ancient and powerful aura. In ancient times, many ancestors of the phoenix actually had their own attributes. But later, with the degeneration of blood, most phoenixes lost their attributes and gradually evolved into the current snow-white feather phoenix. But these shadows are as if they have pulled time back to ancient times. Although they have no body, every phoenix body that spreads its wings seems to have a power that is no less than that of the ancient times. Looking at the scene in front of them, whether it was Yulan or other members of the Yufeng clan, they all felt their breathing stagnate a little. So, this is the final test set by our ancestors. Yulan was speechless for a long time, but her heart felt like the surging waves of the sea. She knew very well that these shadows of the ancient phoenix might be the final test. To be able to withstand it and get the colorful feathered clothes that have never appeared in the world for 10,000 years, it all depends on Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu. The red marriage line slowly floated in the air, swaying slightly with the wind. Facing this overwhelming and magnificent scene, Nai Chen just turned his head and asked softly. How about it, wife, do you feel confident? What do you think? Chu Qingyu smiled lightly, raised her head, and was as beautiful as a poem and painting. Her clear eyes looked up at the sky, obviously without the slightest fear. Similarly, the marriage line connecting the two of them seemed to be unshakable. Then come on, I want to see how severe the test of Yuja Dongtian is. Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu put away their spiritual power at the same time, without using any strength. They only let the marriage line slowly float up in the air, facing the sky and the earth. As if sensing the fearless challenge of the two, the phoenix shadows finally made some moves. Roar. Like a beast roaring loudly, the surging waves of fire covered the sky and surged down. The fire phoenix took the brunt of it, swooping down from the sky. Like a falling star, accompanied by a strong light, the scorching heat wave seemed to devour everything. The flames instantly engulfed the marriage line. The marriage line was not broken, but it was burning with flames. At the same time, other phoenix shadows flashed one after another at this moment. The deep blue of the ice phoenix, the light purple of the thunder phoenix. The phoenix shadows followed the fire phoenix, flashing different lights. With the fire phoenix as the center, they soared quickly and changed positions. The rotating stream of light swirled in the sky and turned into a colorful halo. As the power of the halo surged, even the sky changed under its influence. Boom! The power that had been brewing in the dark clouds for a long time seemed to finally be unable to be restrained and was released at this moment. In the center of the clouds, like a gap in a vortex, a thick pillar of thunder suddenly struck down. The thunder suddenly struck and went straight into the center of the colorful halo. As if it was stimulated, at this moment, the power of the colorful light suddenly erupted. Boom! The deafening sound made many feather phoenixes hurriedly seal their hearing with spiritual power. The sky-high light column penetrated down and reached the sky. At the other end, it fell into the sky, like a mighty wave, sweeping down. Its direction was exactly the marriage line between Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu. What on earth is that? Yu Yan's face turned pale at this moment. She never expected that the power from the ancestors would suddenly reach such a terrible level. Compared with this, the marriage line between Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu seemed solid, but it seemed a little insignificant under the overwhelming power. But, for some reason, Yu Lan suddenly felt an unprecedented expectation in her heart. Come on! Her eyes were clear and shining, and she couldn't help but clench her fists slightly. For the first time, Yu Lan felt hope, and she didn't want to see the only hope that was born with great difficulty completely shattered. When she turned around inadvertently, she suddenly found out. Not only himself, but other members of the Yufeng tribe were also looking into the distance nervously and expectantly, seeming to be silently cheering for the two of them. Although they have not passed the test, the completely different and beautiful love between Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu has changed the minds of many people in the Yufeng tribe. The ancestors could not interfere with the test, but they spread their wings in unison, trying their best to block the violent hurricane roaring between the sky and the earth. Finally, thunder struck. Boom! The extremely violent explosion instantly swept up the wind and waves, and the brilliant brilliance almost made the entire sky and earth shine like daylight. No one could see clearly what happened, but they could clearly feel the terrifying power contained in this blow. It's over. It wasn't until a long time later that the howling wind finally became a little quieter. However, the original positions of Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu were still shrouded in light, making it impossible to see clearly. There was deathly silence in the entire Yuja cave, and the life and death of the two people was uncertain. What happened to the two of them? Could it be? Yu Lan looked surprised and had even thought of the worst-case scenario. Unable to see the center of the explosion, she had to look up at the sky. But for a moment, Yu Yan's eyes shrank slightly. She clearly saw the golden phoenix shadow of her ancestor scanning the vast land and nodding in approval. The shadow of the golden phoenix turned into particles and slowly dissipated. At the same time, Yu Lan unexpectedly realized that he was irresistibly transforming back into the form of a phoenix. The colorful feathers on his body are also slowly floating up. Shock, the love letter was sent to the empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 488. Hey, weird, what happened? My feathers, my hair. Screams of surprise rang out, and many feather phoenixes were surprised to find that their feathers were plucked out by invisible forces and slowly gathered in the air. In addition to the phoenix lords of all generations, for the feather phoenix clan of later generations. Often the whiter the feathers on the body, the purer the bloodline. At this moment, the feathers that were suddenly plucked were all the feather phoenixes with the whitest hair color. Moreover, the feathers that were plucked out were the whitest ones on their bodies. My feathers, only those feathers on my body are the whitest. Damn it, the hair on my head is the purest feather of my bloodline, why do you have to pluck this one when you can pluck any other one? The crying exclamations came one after another, and the whitest feathers on the body were plucked out, which obviously caused a great blow to the hearts of many feather phoenixes. Fortunately, the force of plucking feathers was relatively balanced, and basically 1 or 2 feathers were plucked from each feather phoenix. Although it was sad that the essence was plucked, fortunately, the amount plucked was relatively small. But, Phoenix Lord, what's wrong with you? Oh no, Phoenix Lord seems to have a big problem. When all the feather phoenixes looked at Yulan, they were immediately frightened. Ouch! Oh, it hurts. Hoo, my hair, my hair. The other feather phoenixes were fine, and only 1 or 2 feathers were plucked from their bodies. But for some reason, Yulan seemed to be targeted, and his feathers were pulled off one after another and gathered in the air. Watching, 1, 2, 3. One by one, the beautiful feathers of colorful colors were plucked cruelly, and dozens of them were plucked, and there was no intention to stop. As the only Phoenix Lord who inherited the bloodline of the ancient Phoenix, Yulan has lush and beautiful feathers. For her, this feather is something she has always been proud of. But now, watching her beloved feathers being plucked out one by one, Yulan was screaming in pain, and she was even more distressed. Don't go, my feathers. Don't. Yulan, who was the master of the Feather Realm Cave Heaven just now and had a certain demeanor, was already flashing with lightning of pain. Her gorgeous wings kept flapping, trying to prevent her feathers from being taken away. But she soon found that no matter how she tried to resist, it was useless. Don't, if you keep pulling, you will be bald. In the air, only helpless cries with crying voices echoed. Wait, that's it? But suddenly, the eyes of many feather phoenixes were suddenly attracted, and they all looked up in astonishment. As more and more feathers on Yuian's body were plucked, the feathers that kept gathering towards the sky began to slowly surge and rotate around a point as the center in an orderly manner. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of feathers came from all directions. The sound of a phoenix that sounded like a flute was heard, and it was the remnant soul of the golden phoenix. It flapped its golden wings, looking sacred and proud. The light slowly spread down, covering the countless feathers. At the same time, as if controlled by an invisible force, bathing in golden light, under the gaze of all the feather phoenixes in the feather world. Those feathers are being woven at a slow speed. The snow-white feathers of the feather phoenix are used as a backdrop, and the colorful feathers on Yuian's body are the main color. In the light, although the weaving speed of the feathers is not fast, its general outline can be vaguely seen. That is a piece of clothing. And it is a piece of clothing woven with colorful phoenix feathers. Even if you can vaguely see its outline, it is enough to imagine how beautiful it will be if this complete piece of clothing can be woven. Countless feather phoenixes were suddenly shocked and looked at the sky in disbelief. An idea that they had never dared to think of before finally emerged. This is the rainbow feather robe. The story about the rainbow feather robe has been circulating in the feather realm. But even in the records, no one has really been able to get the rainbow feather robe from the feather realm. So much so that even many feather phoenixes have doubts about the authenticity of this story. But now, the scene of the rainbow feather robe being woven appeared in front of them. This is really the rainbow feather robe. Ouch, it hurts. Even Yulan, who was screaming in pain, looked up at the sky in disbelief. Until this moment, she finally dared to confirm that what she saw in front of her was indeed the real thing, which she had seen over and over again in ancient rumors. Even the rainbow feather robe, which was mistaken by many phoenixes as just a beautiful legend. I didn't expect the rainbow feather robe to actually exist. The appearance of the rainbow feather robe means that those two people really succeeded. Never thought that one day she would actually have the opportunity to see the rainbow feather robe. Yulan even felt her eyes moisten. But soon, she realized that the real reason for her wet eyes was not just because she was moved, but more because it hurt. With tears in her eyes, Yulan stared at the feathers on her body with great pain. The colorful feather clothes were woven with the feathers of the phoenix in the feather world. But she never expected that the total number of feathers plucked from tens of thousands of her tribesmen was only a few thousand. But the feathers plucked from her alone were almost more than theirs combined. At least the other feather phoenixes could pluck 1 or 2 feathers each, which had no effect, but she was about to be plucked bald. Seeing that Yulan, who had a beautiful and colorful phoenix with a faint sense of majesty, was about to become a hairless bird. This kind of pain, I am afraid, is something that only she can understand. Huh. It hurts. After an unknown amount of time, Yulan, with tears in her eyes, finally found out with fear that she seemed to be no longer being plucked. But no wonder they stopped plucking. It turned out that she was going to be completely plucked bald. Looking at her bald body, she almost cried out of grievance, and her former majesty was completely gone. Rainbow feather robe, that's really a rainbow feather robe. At this moment, a cry of surprise suddenly sounded from the ear. Yulan was startled and looked up at the sky. So beautiful. She couldn't help but murmur at the first glance. The colorful feathers on Yuan's body were the main body, and the snow-like feathers of the feather phoenixes were the background. The feather robe fell softly, colorful, beautiful but not demonic. On each feather flowed pure aura, bathed in the light, as if all of them were burning and flowing with beautiful brilliance. It was like a fairyland, spotless and without any flaws. The clear breath was ethereal on it, adding a different sense of coolness to the feather robe. And in the eyes of all the feather phoenixes, this feather robe that was transformed by the power of the feather world slowly fell. And finally, it fell on Chu Qingyu. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 489. Although the phoenix skirt on Chu Qingyu was not ordinary, it was as if it was under irresistible suppression when it came into contact with the colorful feathered clothes. Accompanied by a strong halo, the phoenix skirt was shattered. The snow-white and flawless skin was briefly revealed under the cover of the halo, and the colorful feathered clothes slowly fell on the delicate body. As if it had a charm, after falling on Chu Qingyu's body, the colorful feathered clothes suddenly shrank slightly, following the graceful curves. In the well-proportioned contraction, the already perfect and graceful body was outlined more well. A breeze blew by, and the colorful feathered clothes that fit perfectly swayed gently. The hem of the skirt fell softly, only splitting at the slender and smooth jade legs, like scattered petals surrounding the exquisite body. Ding-ling-ling. At the same time, a pair of light blue bells appeared on her pretty ankles, making a crisp sound. The bare jade feet were as pure as lotus roots, strolling on the sky, spreading waves. For a moment, it seemed to really fulfill the saying, light steps on the water, silk stockings are covered with dust. The colorful neon feathers fluttered like butterflies. Beautiful but not coquettish, soft as a spring waterfall. Wearing on Chu Qingyu, not only did it not steal the show, but it also highlighted the cold and light nature of her natural beauty. The clear and beautiful eyes looked around, and ripples appeared like water waves. At this moment, the pure and beautiful feeling was really like the 9 heavens' mysterious lady descending to the world, beautiful and heart-stirring. The body of the golden phoenix phantom was gradually dissipating. Although it could not speak, it looked at Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu, and its eyes seemed to have a hint of approval. Who? A breeze swept past. Finally, the phantom of the golden phoenix turned into spots of light and dissipated in the air. But even many feather phoenixes could not react to such a beautiful scene for a long time. They had also seen beautiful human women before. Some were said to be so beautiful that they could overwhelm the country and make fish sink to the bottom of the water. But it was still completely incomparable to the poetic scene at this moment. They even felt a little unimaginable that there could be such a beautiful scenery in the world. Perhaps, it was because of this that the colorful feather clothes came for the first time in 10,000 years. Even if they looked at the eye contact between Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu from a distance, a feather phoenix would feel as if they were fed a mouthful of dog food. Colorful feather clothes. This is indeed the most beautiful dress I have ever seen. I didn't expect that the colorful feather clothes really don't live up to the reputation of being the best in the world. Everyone loves beauty. Even Chu Qingyu couldn't help but turn her body with a little excitement, observing the colorful feathered dress that fit perfectly on her body. As she turned gently, the hem of her skirt swayed in the wind, as if flowers were dancing with it. But soon, she noticed Nai Chen, who had been watching her from the side. Obviously, Nai Chen was also a little surprised by the gorgeous colorful feathered dress. Chu Qingyu pretended not to know, approached quietly, suddenly pinched the tip of Nai Chen's nose, and said coquettishly, "What are you looking at?" Ahem, nothing. Even Nai Chen didn't expect that under the background of the colorful feathered dress, the Empress was so beautiful that he was dazed for a moment. He quickly pretended to cough lightly, hiding his smile. "I'm looking at you, my wife, for being so conceited." "What did you say?" Chu Qingyu, who had been waiting for praise, suddenly puffed up her cheeks a little angrily. Unexpectedly, Nai Chen had expected this and suddenly took the initiative. "Well, what I mean is, Shubeo, you look so beautiful in your colorful feathered dress." //////////////////////// Although she didn't know what a strange name Shubeo was, Chu Qingyu was still shy and turned her head slightly when she was suddenly praised like that. "Really? Of course it's true. How beautiful is it? So beautiful that I can't wait to enter the bridal chamber with the Empress right now. /////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////// The red and hot cheeks were blown by the cool breeze for a long time, and Chu Qingyu finally felt relieved. Slippery tongue. The jade finger pointed at Nai Chen's chest with a sneer, but a gratified smile at the corner of her mouth completely betrayed her true thoughts. The two of them held hands involuntarily. When they came to their senses and looked down, they finally remembered that they were still in the feather realm. Moreover, it seemed that there were a group of phoenixes who had been eating dog food silently for who knows how long. Congratulations, both of you. I didn't expect that after tens of thousands of years, someone could actually take the colorful feather clothes from the feather realm. Today, we have also fulfilled the wishes left by our ancestors. After being stunned for a long time, Yulan finally came to her senses and quickly turned into a human form and flew in front of Chu Qingyu and Nai Chen. It was not until she accidentally became a spectator next to her that she knew why the colorful feather clothes that had not been taken away for thousands of years would appear today. This is too sweet. Empress Qingyu seems to be cold and arrogant on weekdays, but when she is with Nai Chen, she exudes the sweet scent of love all the time. After watching this invisible show of affection, she would not believe that neither of them could get the colorful feather clothes. Thank you, Lord Phoenix. Realizing that Yulan seemed to have good intentions towards her, Chu Qingyu thanked him in return. But soon, she noticed something strange and asked curiously. However, why is the Phoenix Lord different from when we first entered the feather realm, wearing such cool clothes? Puff. This sentence immediately pierced Yu Yan's heartstrings like a sharp arrow. Indeed, after she transformed into a human form, the fabric on her body was not only very little, but also as thin as a cicada's wing. If she hadn't just covered her body with her arms, it would have been like she was wearing nothing. But this can't be blamed on herself. Because, all my hair has been plucked out. Yuan's eyes were dim with tears. She used to be convenient and never learned the method of human cultivators to transform into clothes. After transforming, she would directly transform the feathers on her body into clothes. But now there are only a few feathers, and she has no clothes after transforming. There must be no outsiders in the feather realm, otherwise, I, the dignified Phoenix Lord, will be regarded as a pervert. Huh? It's because of this. After a moment of hesitation, Chu Qingyu finally realized it. This reason made her burst into laughter. Don't laugh, all my feathers were used to make colorful feather clothes, it's simply killing the phoenix and breaking the heart, Wu. Yulan wrapped her arms around her body as much as she could, looking pitiful. Chu Qingyu. Nai Chen. Thank you, little phoenix. But at this moment, she suddenly felt a heat on her back. Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu, each on one side, actually wove a brand new dress with spiritual energy. Gently, put it on her body. This is. Yulan curiously tugged at the clothes on her body, with a trace of tears in the corners of her eyes, but suddenly felt a heat in her heart. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 490. Although a small piece of clothing is nothing. But feeling the warmth coming from the clothes on her body, Yulan still couldn't help feeling a warm current flowing through her heart. Now that you have the colorful feather clothes, let's get ready to go. Yes, the sky of Lanchuan continent is about to get bright, and it's time. At the same time, Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu looked at each other. The two smiled at the same time and walked hand in hand. The space ahead had been distorted by the twisting of the Emperor's power. Are you leaving? Yulan finally reacted. Looking around, the members of the Yufeng clan were like her, looking at the back of the departing figure with some reluctance. The colorful feather clothes are famous among the human race, and they also have a different meaning for the Phoenix clan. Over the years, they have been hiding peacefully in the Yuja cave heaven, isolated from the world, and even gradually forgetting their original intentions and things they stick to. If it weren't for the appearance of Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu, I am afraid that even the rumors about the colorful feathered clothes have become an unattainable myth in their eyes, and they even question the authenticity of the ancestral precepts left by their ancestors. Fortunately, on behalf of all the Phoenix clans in Yuja Dongtian, I would like to thank you too. Congratulations on taking the colorful feathered clothes. I will give you the colorful feathered clothes that we have been guarding for 10,000 years. Please treat each other well, Empress and fellow deist Nai Chen, and don't let down the peerless marriage recognized by our Phoenix ancestors. Yulan looked at the backs of the two people leaving with a firm look. Don't worry. Almost at the same time, Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu responded with only 2 words. Then, they stepped into the twisting void. Just 2 words. But for some reason, all the phoenixes in Yuja Dongtian still felt it inexplicably. The ancestors did not make the wrong choice, and similarly, the colorful feathered clothes did not make the wrong choice. This marriage is the best choice for the colorful feathered clothes. It's almost dawn, hurry up. I know. However, why haven't the Empress and senior brother Nai come back yet? The Empress and senior brother Nai still have things to do, and we also have things we should do. Just hurry up, I firmly believe that the Empress and senior brother Nai will be back at sunrise. The Tianyun Hall, which had been busy all night, seemed to have a burning fighting spirit again in an instant. After a whole night of hard struggle, many disciples were tired and had dark circles under their eyes, and were quite weak. But even so, seeing a ray of dawn that had faintly emerged behind the mountains, they immediately tried their best to speed up. Unknowingly, in just one day, the Tianyuan Hall had undergone earth-shaking changes compared to yesterday. A long red carpet rushed from the bottom of the mountain to the Tianyuan Hall on the top of the mountain. The Tianyuan Hall, which was originally proud and cold, was decorated with bright red grosgrain on the golden hall. Jewelry, jade, and even extremely precious magic weapons that are rarely taken out on weekdays are all decorated everywhere today without any hesitation. Whether it is the road leading to the top of the mountain or the magnificent Tianyuan Palace, they all look brilliant under the embellishment. The cold and majestic feeling in the past faintly reveals a different sense of joy and happiness. The precious light is shining, the lookie is swaying, and it looks like a prosperous scene. But for some reason, such a Tianyuan Palace seems to be missing something in the dark. Although the Tianyuan Palace is decorated brightly, it seems to be missing something compared to the invisible and awe-inspiring majesty in the past. What is missing? Looking at the dawn gradually rising in the sky, many disciples have already appeared a little panicked. Oh no, it will be dawn soon, and the various sects will also arrive at the Tianyuan Palace. What should we do next? Because the empress is usually dedicated and responsible, she is responsible for almost every decision. There was no empress sitting here. For a moment, many disciples felt like they were leaderless, not knowing what to do next. What's missing? Today's Tianyuan Hall is indeed decorated very prosperously and beautifully, but because of this, it is indeed different from the past. Wait. At this moment, Aolan, who was looking around with watery eyes, seemed to have suddenly thought of something, and suddenly had an idea. Saint Sister, I need your help. She immediately ran to the side of the flower saint and said anxiously. Hey, what help? There is no time to explain so much, come with me first. Aolan immediately turned into a dragon and carried the flower saint into the air. The dragon's body went straight up to the sky, and there was no intention of stopping. Until it sank into the clouds and flew up for an unknown distance, Aolan slowly hung in the air. At this moment, the wisps of morning light had risen behind the mountain. A small part of the dim sky was illuminated by light. The morning was about to arrive, and obviously, time was running out. Saint Fanhua hurriedly followed Aoian's gaze and looked down. Suddenly, the Tianyuan Palace, which had been decorated for a whole day, appeared in front of the man and the dragon. At this moment, the Tianyuan Palace did look a little more playful and lively, and it looked quite prosperous against the backdrop of bright red silk and satin, and it really looked like a place for weddings. Saint Fanhua's eyes suddenly lit up, and she suddenly understood why Aolan brought her to this place. Although the Tianyuan Palace has become dazzling and prosperous under the decoration of various flowers, but compared with the past, it lacks the most essential and most important cold and majestic. And this is why even the disciples feel strange. Sister Saint, I'm ready to take action. You just watch me, if there is any problem, remember to remind me. Aolan stared at the Tianyuan Palace and said. Well, I understand. The moment the voice of the flower saint fell. Raising the dragon head, on the eve of the sunshine, Aolan issued a dragon roar with unprecedented seriousness. The 4 seas and 8 wastelands, the dragon's might is majestic. In an instant, from the distant West Sea, a torrent of flood surged into the sky, following the clouds in the sky down to the Tianyuan Palace. Roar! The flood roared majestically like a beast, and kept changing its shape under the tyrannical suppression of Aoian's bloodline. The surging waves swept continuously. One of them gradually turned into a water dragon holding a pearl, while the other turned into a phoenix, the leader of all birds. The dragon and phoenix transformed from water slowly landed on both sides of the Tianyuan Palace. The Saint of Flowers also took action at this time. Thousands of flowers covered the water dragon and the water phoenix, and the strange colors gave the water dragon and the water phoenix colors. The water dragon was covered with golden scales under the embellishment of golden flowers, and the water phoenix spread its wings high, with colorful feathers. The sun finally shone from the horizon. At this moment, the dragon and the phoenix seemed to have long been no longer condensed from water, but turned into real dragons and phoenixes, one on the left and one on the right, guarding both sides of the Tianyuan palace. Prosperous, but not without majesty. At the same time, the space on the horizon suddenly twisted, causing many people to open their eyes in shock. That is, the Empress and senior brother Nai are back. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 491. The Tianyuan Hall has changed so much. Looking at the current Tianyuan Hall, even Chu Qingyu showed a little surprise. I thought I would start to decorate the Tianyuan Hall after I came back. Unexpectedly, these disciples had already made preparations in advance. And the current Tianyuan Hall is unexpectedly more magnificent than I imagined. It seems that they have also made a lot of efforts. Looking at Aolan and the flower saint on the other side who were a little out of breath, Nai Chen couldn't help but smile. It seems that the Tianyuan Hall seems to be more orderly than he and Chu Qingyu imagined. Under the leadership of the Empress, the Tianyuan Hall is also slowly improving. How is it, wife, do you feel nervous? Even the Tianyuan Hall was decorated and decorated magnificently. Nai Chen couldn't help but look at the side and smiled. This emperor has encountered countless life and death battles, when have I ever been nervous? Chu Qingyu raised her head with a little pride. Really? Of course. I don't believe it. Do you dare to let me feel your conscience? Humph, who's afraid of who? It's soft, I can't feel it. //U003D. It wasn't until Nai Chen stretched out his hand and pressed it as expected that Chu Qingyu realized it. He didn't want to feel the heartbeat at all, he was clearly taking advantage of the opportunity. Suddenly, Chu Qingyu's heartbeat, which was only a little bit flustered, accelerated instantly. Damn it, at least wait until the bridal chamber. Chu Qingyu's cheeks were suddenly full of redness like a drunk, and she said coquettishly. Ahem, unexpected, unexpected. Seeing the Empress's cute expression that changed in a second, Nai Chen was immediately amused. I'm afraid that only I know this side of Empress Qingyu. But... Nai Chen looked at the horizon. While the two were bickering and joking, the sun that had been hidden behind the continuous mountains finally rose slowly. The sunlight in the early morning gradually illuminated the world. Dawn is coming. This also means that the wedding celebration is about to begin. Well, it seems to be time. After calming down the slightly accelerated heartbeat just now, Chu Qingyu's eyes gradually became firm. With a light tap of the toes, the water-like ripples spread in all directions. Wherever the ripples reached, it was as if the four sides of the Tianyuan Palace were activated. The reason why Tianyuan Palace was located here is because it is located in a place where spiritual veins gather. In the past, Tianyuan Palace was full of spiritual energy and extremely suitable for cultivation. And when Chu Qingyu activated the spiritual veins here, the majestic spiritual energy hidden in the spiritual veins suddenly burst out. Under the nourishment of the spiritual energy from afar, the magic arrays distributed in various parts of Tianyuan Palace were all activated. In an instant, the light was everywhere, and the already magnificent building was almost dyed with holy and proud gold at the same time. The magic arrays that were originally hidden on the ground all flashed with brilliant light, like lights, illuminating the entire Tianyuan Palace like a fairyland. Boom! 12 pillars of light rose up around the Tianyuan Palace in an instant. Each pillar of light went straight to the sky and penetrated into the underground spiritual veins. Correspondingly, at almost the same time, the 12 Xingluo palaces distributed in various parts of the Lanchuan continent, forming a star-shaped trend, rose up at the same time. For a moment, it seemed that the whole world was centered on the Tianyuan Palace. And in the center of the peak of the Tianyuan Palace, a crack was opened in the space. On the other side of the golden light, A sacred halo was continuously sprinkled, as if a god had descended. Like a lotus of the utmost love and purity, Chu Qingyu held Nai Chen's hand and landed in front of the Tianyun Palace in the fluttering colorful feather clothes. The two looked at the distant sky together. At the same time, sensing the changes in the Tianyun Palace, the sects from all directions gathered at an accelerated speed. More and more sect monks appeared on the horizon. But looking at the Tianyun Palace in front of them, they all showed a sense of amazement. This is using spiritual energy to penetrate the sky and bring the blessing of irrigation from the fairyland. Although it seems that I have heard similar rumors that there were emperors in ancient times who used this method during sacrifices or extremely important celebrations. But I didn't expect that the Tianyun Palace actually had such power. She is worthy of being the empress. The vast scene was awe-inspiring. With the irrigation of the fairyland's spiritual power, just being within 100 miles of the Tianyun Palace as the center can make people feel extremely comfortable and can't help but feel the mystery here. The sects and schools invited to the Tianyun Palace to participate in the wedding celebration couldn't help but feel more awe in their hearts. They didn't dare to be disrespectful. They landed on the ground a few miles away from the Tianyun Palace and stopped flying in the wind. Instead, he climbed the stairs step by step and respectfully went to Tianyun Hall. Liuguang Temple burning text, come to celebrate the wedding of the empress. Offer a string of precious red sandalwood bodhi, 100 Methraya cores, and a prajna gujade. Emishan use iron, come to celebrate the wedding of the empress. Offer 10 pieces of Furong Mingbing, taking Shendan, and 100 pieces of Swilian Biudan. Duan Mu Yang's great-grandfather, Dongji Saint Emperor Duan Mu Hong, come to celebrate the wedding of the empress. This plum blossom silver spear is a gift to Nai Chen and his brother, and the empress's sister-in-law. Emperor Peng Yuan, come to celebrate the wedding of the empress. Damn Nai Chen, I didn't expect that he actually caught the empress. Envy, jealousy, hatred. Humph, well, just consider it for the empress's sake. I, Emperor Jinming, have also come to celebrate the empress wedding. Ahem Qingyu, I also brought a gift. Most of the sects that came were top-ranking sects, and the scene was so grand that it was hard to imagine. But the appearance of Emperor Peng Yuan, Emperor Jinming, and Saint Fanhua still shocked many people. The emperors in Lanchuan continent are rare and have a high status. It has been many years since a couple of both emperors appeared. Now not only Nai Chen and Empress Qingyu are both emperors, but there are 3 emperors coming to celebrate the wedding. The wedding of 5 emperors is really unheard of. The size of the card is enough to be called the best in thousands of years. Even if you look through historical records, you can hardly find a wedding of this magnitude. There is no doubt that the empress's wedding today will be recorded in history. The light shining above the Tianyun Palace became more and more sacred and brilliant. But before many cultivators could recover, another voice sounded behind the crowd. Princess Yuqian of the underworld, come to celebrate the wedding of Xiao Qingyu and Nai Chen. In an instant, everything was silent. Amid countless shocked eyes, Yuqian just raised her head with a relieved smile.